Okay, we are live, so it says. Okay, perfect. Okay. Hello, Julie. Thank you for coming. Thank you for doing this for me. I really am so excited about learning. I love learning new things anyways, and anything that's unique and different, I'm all about it. So this is awesome. Let me show Ishi. Ishi's our first people here. Hey, Ishi.
She's our one and only.
This is a very intimate setting here.
Yeah, well, it's your chart, so we're just going to walk through it and use the cards and use the workbook a little. And
yeah. Okay. So Julie had this fantastical idea to do my chart live and convert my Western astrology chart to Real Sky Astrology, which with her telling me about it makes so much more sense why I go through certain stages and how I fit in with other signs and stuff like that. Hi, Pamela. Thanks for coming.
Hi, thanks for coming.
So, yeah. So first, Julie, if you will, tell us how you came about to know Real Sky Astrology.
Well, I've been doing astrology, regular Western traditional astrology, since before I even did my first tarot deck. So, like from 1980 on, I've been interested in my own astrology chart and astrology in general. And I would have done astrology charts for people, but back in the 90s, when I got my computer, I was always working with Apple, and Apple never had a program for astrology. So I kind of focused more on tarot and didn't head into astrology. Though most of all of my later tarot decks are based on astrology. My Mahat especially did moon signs and moon phases in Western astrology. But when I went to Egypt in 2009, I was called on the carpet by Robert Bauval, and he asked me directly why Western astrology uses an antiquated sky, and went on to show us individually that each one of us had a sun sign that was different than what we were thought we had, because Western astrology is based on books that were from an earlier period, and the sky became based on those books, not on the real sky, which is what
because everything was placed differently by the time like the 1900s.
Right, the thing called precession. So he taught us about precession, and then I was really reluctant because I didn't want to have to do Mahat over. I didn't want Mahat to be wrong. And so I was very reluctant. And then finally, about a few months later, I decided I can't not do Real Sky. So I ended up having this big dream with all of the cards from Journey into Egypt being shown to me, like rapid fire. And then I was like, okay, I'm going to do an Egyptian deck based on Real Sky. After I finished Journey into Egypt, it really became more about that one became about history and people and Egypt. And it covered astrology, but it really didn't, it wasn't really an astrology book. And I felt like I should be writing an astrology book. And in 2019, I was sitting with friends, and we were talking about Real Sky Astrology, and what I really needed to do for Real Sky Astrology was to have an app. And maybe I should have an app. And I thought about looking into making an app, and found out that it was extremely expensive to create, like 5 figures to create.
Create an app.
To create an app.
That's crazy.
And, and I could find astronomy apps that worked really well for, to look up things for astrology. And then it occurred to me after a dream that I should just make another tarot deck. And it was starting to come through to me in a tarot form.
That's interesting. So vivid images in your dream.
Well, as usual, I've got vivid images coming through. And I thought, okay, if I do a workbook with that, that would count as my astrology book that I feel like I should be writing.
Right.
On what Real Sky is. And it took me like 10 years to really decide to do that. There had been a whole decade since I'd been in Egypt with Robert.
Right.
I had thought about this and I'd done Journey into Egypt, and now it was like, okay, now it's time to flesh this out and create something. And, put all my ideas in one spot and all the astrology tricks that I'd learned over time through experience and the patterns of different planets and what they do. Oh, yeah, that's good. Let's stop this.
This is real time, folks.
Very precarious thing. Okay.
That's funny.
And I put it close so that I could use it.
Yeah.
And we could show. So we decided to do Ginger's chart today. And so should I just start with your chart?
Well, yes, let's.
You want to look at the workbook?
Yeah, we got a room full of people now. So we've got Tony popped in, and of course Jackie popped in.
Hi everybody.
Vagabond Gypsy. Who else? Peter's here somewhere.
Yeah, he's here. He's in the living room.
Of course, Ishi. So yeah, I think we're set to go. I have some newer people here too. Pamela, was it Pamela? Where are you?
Yeah, Pamela was one of the first ones.
Okay, oh, Jane. Yeah, Jane's here. Hi, Jane. I love Jane's candle. Okay, so yeah, so we're here to if you're just popping in, Julie and I have been discussing Real Sky Astrology and how it differs from Western astrology, and it's more of a true based where the planets are compared to way back when they developed astrology and signs, correct? So we're going to, yeah.
So when I started looking at the astrology signs, I like really scrutinizing the astrology signs, I had already started to see Egyptian symbolism in them.
Wow.
And as I began to do that, I sort of reinvented astrology. Like as long as I was throwing out Western astrology, I thought, well, let's just really look at what we've got here.
Right.
And not be held to strict tradition about what we think astrology should mean or what it's like. My astrology doesn't have boy girl order. It's not male female. Like people will say that Aquarius is male and Pisces is female and Aries is male and Taurus is female. That's not how this one works at all. When I look at the symbolism for what it is and what it shows me, according to, see this pattern in the background?
Yeah.
This is a ceiling that is at the Dendera temple, and it was recreated by the Ptolemies in the late era Greek. But all of Dendera temple is based on ancient scrolls. And it was rebuilt because the temple had been destroyed in antiquity. So the Greeks came in and got rid of the foreign people who had destroyed the temples, and they rebuilt the temples. And this Dendera temple has got the sky according to the Egyptians. And in the middle here are all of the northern stars. And then towards the outside edges, you get the zodiac, which is the southern sky, according to the Egyptians. That's the zodiac wheel. That's the part that moves. The northern stars don't move. They're visible all year round.
Right.
And the Egyptians knew that. Now these outer degrees are the stars that are inside of each one of the signs. And when a traveling star or planet would hit a certain point, it would mean something. And they would actually have these things inside the coffin lids, like auspicious days in a person's life, and the aspects would be recorded when that was important to them. Like these patterns were important to the Egyptians, and they watched the real sky, so they knew about precession. And every 2,160 years, there's a new sign at the horizon at equinox, and that's how they can tell what the age is. So when Pisces was about to come onto the horizon and replace Aries, it became the age of Pisces. And about the same time that the Gospels were being written, a man who was a librarian named Claudius Ptolemy was writing about precession, and he predicted that the age of Pisces would begin in 221 AD. And he was dead long before 221 AD. So he was talking about precession and teaching and writing these things down. Well, when Ptolemy's writings finally appeared in Europe, it was during the Renaissance, when the royal families of Europe finally entered the papacy. And that's when the doors to the Library of the Vatican were open, and people were starting to read the Greek and Latin scrolls that had been written like a thousand years ago. So one of the things that he wrote about was astrology and astronomy. And at the time of Egypt, astronomy and astrology were the same things. So they were watching, and Western astrology has kept the same sky from 221, and they haven't changed it. It's not going to ever change. They say that it's seasonal. That's the excuse, but it's like, well, Robert Bobble said to me, he says, Western astrology is rubbish.
Period.
Really hurt my feelings because I was pretty enmeshed in it, and my stuff was based in it. And
right, you took a hit to the heart there.
Took a hit to the ego on that one, and I was mad about it. But he took me aside and he said, Real Sky Astrology works, and if you write about it, you'll be on the cutting edge. So
wow.
I felt like, well, I could at least experiment with it. I mean,
yeah.
So I did start to experiment with it, and when it came time to do my annual calendar for Mahat, I would do astrology with it, and I couldn't bring myself to do it in 2009. I couldn't bring myself to create that astrology calendar again because I felt like I was lying.
Okay. Yeah.
So that was the beginning, and then I had the dream about journey into Egypt, and I decided. So the workbook will tell you about precession, and the workbook will tell you about my journey to using precession, and it will tell you how to convert your chart. So that's really what we're going to do today.
Yeah. Well, I put the your website in the chat real quick so that other people know where to find your workbook, because this is going to be just awesome.
Yeah. So the workbook will tell you like what the symbols are, and you can use this with any astronomy app. I like Go Skywatch the best. I wish I had an app where I could put all of my Egyptian symbolism into the sky. I would love to have a real app.
So has the price of the apps gone down yet? Have you checked into it?
I'm not a tech, and this is not,
I'm,
trying not even to do the charts or anything. I mean, I just did this so that other people could do their charts, and I want to just do the art. That's really like my thing.
Right.
So
I want to pop up one question here so that Tony can understand what we're doing. I'm a Gemini and my son is in Gemini. Is that conclusive, or is there more to look into? It depends on your birthday, correct?
Yeah, it does. It depends on your birthday, and it's possible that you might still be a Gemini. Probably not. People who
It's
are
funny
more
when I go on YouTube to watch, okay, Cancer, the month of whatever, I'm like, okay, do I do Cancer? Do I do Gemini? Well, I do have a moon in Gemini. I think, no, I don't. But I'm rising in, okay, I'll just watch them all. I'll watch what Julie tells me I am,
Yeah,
and then
just
I'll
watch
watch
them
what.
all. Why not? I mean, Western astrology has added so much minutia. Every asteroid that they find and every new
Right.
moon of a new planet to add to their meaning that they've
Right. Like this
created
new
a
Chiron
whole
is
new
so
system,
new.
right?
I bought an astrology deck, the heavenly astrology, and I'm like, what's this Chiron thing? And I was Chiron. I was saying Chiron. I'm like, what's this? Or Chiron? What the heck is this?
And because the astrology signs are off, there are other things that tweak it. And like when you're using a tarot card and you use the same card in many situations, and it just sort of morphs to tell you what you need to know in a situation. That's kind of how astrology is now, with all of the extra minutia.
Right.
It's sort of adapted itself into being a divination tool. But
Yeah.
what I've done here is I've just scraped it back to the earliest parts that I can find and see, just by scraping all of the old European stuff off of it,
Yeah.
and
Yeah.
getting rid of all the minutia, and just simply looking at the planets that we can see, and
Right.
looking at the larger planets that they hadn't discovered or didn't use because they couldn't see them, and using them as generational markers. And
Right.
so what they could see was Saturn and Jupiter, Mars, Venus, Mercury, Sun, and the Moon. So that's basically what I'm looking at and using with, with these signs that have Egyptian mythologies behind them, because I can see the Egyptian in the signs.
Okay, let me ask one more question before we get started, because it might come in the chat anyways. What do you find different? I've heard of Vedic astrology. What's the difference between Real Sky and Vedic? Do you know?
I think they're just a few degrees different, but they have a whole way of setting it up that is like in a box, and it's not in this circle, which is very Egyptian.
Okay.
The
right.
first
So we need to get everybody on the Real Sky train. The Real Sky asteroid.
Well, it's just another way to look at things.
Sure.
And if you
like
look
different
at
versions of the Bible.
when you look at the astrology, the horoscope, and you'll notice the east, the compass points, the east is over here, the west is over here, the south is up above and not north. It's very much the worldview of Egypt, because the Nile would flow from south to north, and this was Lower Egypt. North was Lower Egypt.
All right.
South was Upper Egypt, and that's very confusing when people are talking about Upper Egypt and Lower Egypt. When a European looks at that, they think, "Oh, what are you talking about?"
Yeah, your compass is wrong.
Yeah, your compass is off. But this was their worldview, and their calendar was 12 months with 10 3 10-day weeks. So when you look at a scope, it's divided into 12.
Okay.
And each pie slice has got degrees, 30 degrees, and they're divided into decans, 10, 10, 10. So 30 days, sections of 10. And that is an Egyptian calendar. And that was the biggest thing that struck me.
Keep talking. I need to close my window.
Okay, that was the biggest thing that struck me. And the way that I learned about it was when I was doing Journey into Egypt, and I started painting the world card. I started with Nut on top, and I had her head in over here in this direction. And I went, "Oh no, her head is supposed to be in the west," thinking in my Western compass points. And thinking her head was in the east because I had a European compass point in my head. And then I realized I had to flip it around. I had to flip this whole thing. I had to flip it all around to be Egyptian. And that was my first big lesson with my first painting and was of the world card. And then slowly, I was being taught something.
Right. Now, with the south being up here, does that matter? Like, our north is still our north, right? As far as
north is still north.
Okay.
North is still their north, but because Nadar, this is called the Nadar, and it's an Arabic word for like bottom or below.
Okay.
And so this would be equivalent to the bottom of the river, the delta.
Okay. All right, that makes sense too.
So I actually put the river in here so you can see this flow of the river. And it's Egypt, how we would view upside down, but this was the way that they saw it.
That's so interesting. So I got my book, so you guys need to go order one, and then we can, watch this video over again, and it will help you convert your own charts.
Right. So the first thing that you can know about your Western chart is that your planets are all in the right place. You don't have to move your planets at all.
Oh, okay.
Planets stay right where they are. And the only thing that's going to move, and I'm going to just use your chart, because I have it underneath here. And this is your chart the way that it is. And all we have to do is just
tweak it a bit.
Turn.
Okay.
Okay, your sun is at the very beginning of Gemini. Not quite the very beginning, but like 3 days into Gemini. Because what's nice is that right now, the summer solstice, June 21st, is the first day of Gemini.
Oh, okay.
And since your birthday is the 24th, it's just 3 days in.
So am I considered on a cusp still?
No, you're not. Well, you're not like right on the cusp, but you're a Gemini. You're full on.
I'm a Gemini. Okay. Yes, I have multiple personalities, I admit.
Well, here's the thing about Gemini, and I'm going to just pull the Real Sky cards out, and we'll look at the symbolism. We have the sun in Gemini. So the thing about Gemini is that in Egypt, the twins, and they talk about twins, that every god is a twin, but the gods are not male twins, like what is it, Pollux, and I can't even think of the Greek. I can't think of it.
Right.
It's two male twins in the Western astrology, and in Egypt, the twins and the gods were always paired off, male and female. Like every god that you find is always got a mate. It's always got a feminine version of the masculine or a masculine version of the feminine. They always come in pairs. So Gemini, so when you have Gemini, you have this, when you're a Gemini, you have this lovely balance between your masculine side and your feminine side.
Right.
You might have to play that role in your life. And that's where your sun shines.
And that really makes sense to me right now. Being single mother, you have to play both roles.
Right.
Talk box rage, it fell apart.
I know. What one is that one?
Journey into Egypt.
I don't know. Those were hand glued by the publishing company.
Glue does age.
That's true. It is an old deck now. I mean, Castor and Pollux. Thank you, Peter. Those are the Gemini.
Castor. Oh, okay. That's their names?
Yeah.
They have names.
They do have names.
Oh, interesting.
In the card, you can see what the constellation looks like.
Yeah.
There's stars here and there.
Find it real quick.
So, and that takes on like the male twins of Rome, like Romulus and Remus, who founded Rome, and all of their patriarchal kind of way of looking at everything. And Egypt was much more egalitarian and much more balanced. They were very into balance.
What is this card? Is it what does that say? Emperor? What's that
The
say?
Lovers.
The Lovers. Okay. Duh. I knew that.
Your sun. And let's see what else is in. What else do you have in Gemini? I think I have other.
I should have brought this out before we got started.
You have the sun in Gemini. You have Mercury in Gemini. And you also have Venus in Gemini. So let's do all the cards that you have in Gemini.
Okay.
Gemini.
Okay. Oh, wait.
And I had to look back because your Venus is very close.
Looking in your Journey into Egypt deck. That's not what you have.
No,
you have the Real Sky Astrology.
I've got the Real Sky Astrology deck. You don't have that one yet, right?
Well, no, I don't, because I'm seeing two Egyptian, the twins, so I went directly to your.
You're not going to find this card in that deck.
Okay. I did find that. That's beautiful.
All right. So and you also have the Empress and Venus and Mercury, all in Gemini. So these are inner planets. So at home, in your inner world, you have to play the role of male and female. When you're loving and when you're thinking, you always have to use your masculine and feminine sides.
Yeah.
With both. So we're just going to block that out of there now. And we're going to go look at your moon.
Okay.
Your moon is in Pisces.
Ooh.
And Pisces is also your ascendant.
Oh, it is?
Yeah. You have a waning.
She's accusing me of whining in public. Do you hear this?
You have a waning moon.
Okay, I'm sorry. Moon. Okay.
Moon
Pisces is also ascended. Okay. So.
Yes. And your moon is also waning.
Okay. So how do you know that it's waning? Just by your card?
Where it's positioned in conjunction with the sun.
Oh, okay. So it's a waning moon.
Is heading this way to become new.
Okay. Reading. It's going towards new. Okay.
And so your ascendant is also Pisces. And so you have this symbol of the fisherman. The Piscean age is all about the fisherman. And if you look at our religion right now, which was all written about during the time when Claudius Ptolemy was working on his precession texts, the Gospels talk about Jesus, this mythology of the fishers of men. I will make you fishers of men.
Right.
And this is the mythology being brewed up for the age of Pisces. It was all happening, it was all being written about 150 years after said incident. And if when you look at the Dindira temple and the sky, you can see clearly that the symbol for the I can find a good image of it. Okay, yeah, this will work. Maybe, I think. I don't know. We have to get
it's
really
pretty close. Well, it's pretty. There we go.
Let's see the Pisces fish. Where are my fish? Oh, here. The fish are here. And there's these two figures here. And one is a baboon holding strings where they're holding onto the strings.
Okay.
And one is an initiate. And it's underneath the age of berries. It's underneath the ram. So the influence of this age starts in the age of Aries. Now, that the baboon is a fisherman, and the story goes that, and we find this story in the Egyptian Book of the Dead about the fishermen of the dawn, the apes of the dawn, and they were talking about the baboons who would go to the Nile and fish at night and in the morning, and and Thoth was known as it having two forms. He was a baboon, and he was also an ibis, and he was the scribe of the gods. And that Thoth was also a magician and the keeper of the doorway to the other world. And the reason why he got that symbolism is because the doorway to the other world is the sunrise and the sunset. And that's when people would see the baboon out. And to make this even like more important, when the founders of the United States new government, when they decided to call themselves a Congress,
right?
And these were men who gathered in fraternities and rose up against the sovereignty of, the divine right of kings. They called themselves Congress, and this is the same word used for a gathering of baboons.
Oh, funny.
So they were calling themselves magicians because the baboons were the magicians in ancient Egypt. This is ancient stuff.
So,
Part of the evolution of the Piscean age.
So does that make me a magician then?
Yeah.
That's
So that's very prominent in your chart.
All right, everybody, you have to buy this deck. I'm going to have to buy this deck. Beautiful. It's the only deck I don't have of Julie's now, so I have to.
If I would have had it, I would have sent it to you, but I don't have these laying around.
Yeah.
These are on demand.
I demand it.
The card for the moon in Pisces is the child of water. And you can see,
so I'm still. Oh well, no, never mind.
The child is in his own world here.
Child of water.
Yeah.
I love it. So I grew up being Cancer. I'm a moon child, but now I'm not. That's depressing to me.
Oh, well, there's, good things about moon and Pisces.
That's right. My moon's in Pisces, so I'm still good with that. Okay. I'm still
Your moon's in Pisces. Your sun is in Gemini.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you have anything in Cancer? No, you don't. You don't. But you know what? Cancer is kind of a hard sign.
Yeah. So you know what's going to be funny to me, interesting to me, is if I notice any differences once I learn this, because it's like I grew up very introverted, shy, and at one point in my life I became like fire came out of me, and then I learned through Western astrology my rising sign was Aries. I'm like, that makes total sense. Well, I'm so calm and everything, but if somebody crosses me, fire comes out. So now I'm wondering, in learning about Gemini and the moon and Pisces, how I can probably go, yeah, this relates too.
So also when we look at your chart, This is the part that people can see. This is the part that people can see. This is the part that you keep to yourself.
Oh, that's what
Below
that
the horizon. So if you look at this line that goes across, this is the horizon line. This is the east, this is the west.
Right.
And you've got the horizon sign. So these are the only points that people can see.
This is interesting. Yeah, because I used to think, oh my God, that means I have no life up in those.
Well, you have a lot of life, but you don't share it with everyone.
Right.
And you need to share it with everyone. What I think is interesting is that you've got your Saturn over here in this house over here. And it's in Aquarius. So there's timing, and it wants to be like the 11th house, but it really still is in the 12th, which is this connection to something greater than yourself, like the connection to the universe.
Oh, wow.
And it wants to be in the 11th house of other people's children, but it really is about that you're connected to something, like the great beyond. You're connected to the conscious universe. And what else is showing is a retrograde Neptune, and it's in Libra. And that's about partnership. It's the 7th house of partners, marriage, and open enemies. Like, these are the people that you have karma with. And you've got it, and it's retrograde.
What's retrograde? Which planet?
This Neptune is retrograde.
Neptune. Okay.
I did pick.
Okay.
That. So I don't have a Neptune card per se, but I do have Neptune pips. Like, I have cards in the Neptune.
So does that also mean like people like to have it out for me just because I'm different?
Neptune is a generational card, or a net generational planet. So it, like, a whole generation of people will have the same the planet in the same sign. So what's interesting is that yours is retrograde, and my card for the retrograde Neptune is the Ten of Swords. So, but look at what this is. This card is like, it's a graveyard. It's like this spooky graveyard. So you have this partnership with
the dark side, the gothic.
This like the life that is haunting.
Wow. And me, anybody who knows me here in the chat is just this. We're in my favorite month, first of all. So this really, because seriously, I would always think, why do I have this gothic side of me that I'm totally drawn to, the music, the everything gothic? Am I evil?
No, you have a connection to this. So whoever you're supposed to be with will also have a connection with this. And that could be, just a business partner, or it could be, someone else that you're working with. But it's like that's
so since I'm making notes, how would I say that I have a connection to the otherworldly, or what would you say that would be? Connection to, if you
spirit,
okay,
like
the universe.
You're aware of the energy that remains.
Okay.
You can feel it. And whoever you're going to be with or going to work with, they are going to also feel it. And it's in Libra, so there's
does that explain why I have like spirit people in my house? That I have that
would explain. I think I have the card for Libra too. I tried to pull out the cards that we were going to need for this.
A rainbow goth. Peter's calling me a rainbow goth.
That's my daughter, Rainbow Goth.
I love it. Yeah, because anybody who sees me on the outside thinks that I'm super sweet, and I am. I'm very. I'm just super sweet and loving and nurturing, but I have that gothic side.
And there's Thoth again.
Okay.
It's involved with this.
So do I need to channel Thoth?
Yeah, maybe you do.
Ooh, I'm going to write that down.
You need to like connect with Thoth and maybe write. Do some writing.
Interesting.
Keep your heart light, which is, what, it's the Justice card, but it's all about keeping that heart light. And
yeah. Yeah.
And you need partners that are also that way.
Yeah. Well, anybody I have a connection with in the same realms, excuse me for saying, but they're all gay. They've not leaving me any heterosexual men at all to choose from.
I don't know what to tell you. I don't know what to tell you.
Anyway. Oh, this is fascinating.
So your midheaven changes.
Midheaven?
With the turning of this. The midheaven is this point here.
The arrows are called midheaven?
The arrow at the top would be south. The southern tip. The midheaven is important for career, and it's like where you look to find your career. And I know that you've been wanting to figure out what you're supposed to be doing. What's your career? What's that's supposed to be? Because there's a little bit of friction with your moon. Your moon is in Pisces, and that squares your midheaven. So there's a little bit of friction there. There's a little bit of like, I don't know what I should do.
Right.
I don't know. There's always going to be that. But what I think you want to look for is something that will project into the future. Like this card, Sagittarius is the hero, the villain, and you may take aim at a situation and set yourself up to be hero or villain in a situation. Like you might find a controversial topic and want to just poke at it, or say, maybe inkling of doubt, or pose a question like, what if this happens, or what if that happens? And just poke at the bear a little bit.
Poke the bear.
Poke the bear. That could be your career.
My career is poking the bear.
Maybe.
Go find a circus and be the bear trainer.
Right. And your Mars didn't change.
Okay.
Your Mars did not change. All right, let me look. Your Mars stayed in Virgo. Mars is the people outside of your social circle. Ooh.
Mars is outside of my social.
Yeah, Mars is the planet that's just outside of those inner planets. And the inner planets are the Sun, the Moon, Venus, and Mercury. There are inner planets. Those are the inside world. And their first step out of our Earth orbit is Mars. So Mars is this little red planet that creates a 7-pointed orb kind of design when it is adjacent to Earth. And a 7-pointed star is a fairy star.
Oh.
So I depicted Mars as the others. And your others are in the sign of Virgo. Virgo is depicted as the goddess.
Virgo? I'm sorry, who's in Virgo? Mars?
Mars is in Virgo.
Mars in Virgo.
Right. So Virgo is depicted as Hathor, the goddess Hathor. It's a feminine sign. And so those people who are just outside of your social circle, they're not inside your house, they're other priestesses, other people,
Okay.
other people like that, people who are just a little bit outside of the norm. They could be other world beings, like here he is with his portal.
Okay.
He's kind of a druid fellow, and he's not your mainstream kind of a person.
Right. Kind of like me.
Kind of like you. And you have Mars in the 5th house of health. So these are the people you connect with when you want to feel healthy, and you want to.
Oh, okay. Okay.
Okay. Let's see. What should we get to? Saturn. Saturn, we talked about because that is showing. Saturn is something people can see. It's in the sign of Aquarius. And that's always about timing. Oops. Keep knocking this over. I should have glued it. Saturn is the patterns of our life.
Oh.
Our life patterns. Saturn has a cycle of about 29 years. So it's kind of like a moon cycle, which is 28 days, only on a bigger scale.
Mm-hmm.
And it will aspect your birth. It will come back to your birth when you're about 29, 30 years old. And that will be a big, important time in your life.
Okay.
It returns again when you turn, like, you can look it up. You can look up what Saturn is and then find out when it comes back to those places.
So every 21 years. So
yeah.
50.
Saturn is about structure in your life and life patterns. And
so next year it'll come back around then.
And that will be really important.
To make sure I'm doing something worthwhile when that happens.
Yeah. People will see that happen.
What's
That's
that?
going to be when your Saturn returns. That's going to be something that you share with people because it's right there in your like upper hemisphere here where people can see. It'll be kind of important, and the timing of it is going to be important too because the star card is all about timing. This is the god Happy, and then the star is Sirius. Happy is the Nile god, and whenever Sirius would rise annually, the Nile would also flood. So it was this very important life-giving symbol.
I have a connection with that Sirius star because every time I would look up in the sky, that's the star I would notice. So I got my little app out. I wasn't wearing my glasses. I'm like, Sinus? I've never heard of a planet called Sinus. And then one day I was looking it up again. This time I had my glasses. I'm like, Sirius. The star of Sinus is
really an important star for Egypt. They associated it with Isis because they associated Orion with Osiris. And the whole Nile cycle would play out in the passion of Osiris, the whole drama of this Osiris myth. Okay, where are we? Jupiter we haven't looked at yet.
Okay.
Jupiter is in Taurus. And it's also in the 3rd house of communication. Jupiter, for me, what I see when I see Jupiter, Western astrology say this is lucky planet. This is so lucky. Expanding, lucky. I see this as patriarchal institutions,
Hmm.
and I see Jupiter as kind of the big, all-encompassing sort of structure, kind of because it's a 12-year orbit,
Okay.
and 12 is associated with the 12 signs of the zodiac. It's more of a solar thing. Jupiter's kind of a failed star in itself.
Mm.
And so it didn't really ever become a sun, but it still attracts um, uh, asteroids and things to sort of like protection on the block, but at the same time, it can kind of be a bully.
Oh,
And actually, Jupiter was the first planet um, to form in the solar system, and when
okay.
it formed, it actually kicked out a gas giant from our solar system.
Oh, wow.
And what reined it in was and kept it from continuing was Saturn. Saturn keeps Jupiter in place.
Oh, wow.
So I see Saturn, or not Saturn, I see Jupiter as this kind of like planet of patriarchal institutions. And when Jupiter is like when it's at extremes like solstices and equinox, when it's in those places, is when
Uh-huh.
we have the most trouble with government and
Right.
church
I've
and
heard
politics
this. Yeah.
stuff. So with you having Jupiter in your house of communication
Mm.
with Taurus, who is representing Osiris, um, the bull known as the Apis bull was after after Osiris was killed by his brother Set. Um, they had this bull that would represent. He was sort of like the representation of Osiris on Earth,
Right.
because everyone missed Osiris, but they could feel him in the fertility of Earth. And
Interesting.
so the god became like symbolized by a bull, and the bull became deified. And and so
And so, what would that mean for me as Jupiter in Taurus, third house?
it's like you are the person who would want to communicate. And the death card in tarot is always rebirth
Mm-hmm.
and change, and you would use your voice to create change
Oh,
and to stand up to institutions, and
yeah.
like you could work with the institution, but
Yeah.
you would also speak up.
Yeah. That.
I think that we've covered your planets here. We've got them all.
Okay. Okay.
Anybody have any questions?
Oh, we have a lot of comments. Let's see. We have a couple people that joined the chat. We have Marcia. Thank you. And we have Kiba somewhere. Kiba. Hello to Kiba. I can't find Kiba. Kiba, thank you for coming. Yes. Oh, yeah. So for those who came in late, Julie is converting my Western chart into Real Sky Astrology, and this is fascinating. See, Jupiter is a bully. He pulled 9 planets, planet 9 out of the solar system. What planet would that have been? Do we know? I mean, does it have a name now? Is that Chiron? No.
No, I don't think so. I think it was another gas giant. It was another gas giant that got pushed out. So it's
Oh,
out
okay.
there somewhere. So if our solar
So
system,
we may have had 2 suns if they didn't do that?
we may have had 3 gas giants instead of just 2.
Oh, wow. Okay.
You know, right. Neptune is, you know, kind of big, but it's not as big as like Saturn and Jupiter. Jupiter being the biggest one. So there would have been like one more big one, in the orbit.
Okay.
So there's like something missing, and I kind of feel like that. Who is that? There's always somebody missing out of our solar system. Like this solar system is sort of like has a missing relative out in the deep somewhere.
Right. It was like I was really sad when I heard Pluto wasn't a planet anymore. It's like it's called a dwarf planet, but it's still got the word planet in it. So wouldn't that make it still in our solar system as a planet?
Well, it's little. I mean, it's little.
Yeah.
Yeah. It's
To be
too little to be
in the gang, you have to be a little bigger then.
Yeah. I feel like Pluto, it's still in the charts. I don't have cards for Pluto.
Right.
I look at it and I will read where Pluto is just because Pluto is kind of extreme. I
Right.
think it as a symbol of extremism. So when Pluto is in Sagittarius, it's like, okay, this is why we're dealing with extremism in
Okay.
the hero villains. So we're going to have a lot of extreme hero villains right now.
Oh my gosh.
And it's a
Just what we
slow
need.
mover, so
Right.
it's going to take a while for it to go direct and get out of Sagittarius, but also moving into Capricorn would just put it into uncharted territory. So our extremists will be heading for uncharted territory of Capricorn, and maybe that won't be that great either. But what happens when we go from age of Pisces to age of Aquarius is that we can't take anybody's word for it. We have to actually do the research and know. We can't just believe. That's the problem with believing, is that you're trusting someone else to do your thinking for you, and you have to know. You have to do the research. You have to do the work yourself.
So we haven't entered into Age of Aquarius yet? I thought
No,
we did.
no,
When's
we
that?
won't fully be into the age of Aquarius for another 150 years.
Oh,
So we're in like this place of being on the cusp.
right.
So we have we're being set up for a time of knowing, but right now we're still in a place where we want to believe. And when you have to know everything,
Yeah.
you lose all the comfort of just believing.
Right.
You can trust the authority. You can trust,
Yeah.
and there's a comfort in saying, oh, that person's really well researched and I believe them. They've done their homework. I don't have to think. I can take their word for it.
Right. Right.
And that's a very comforting place to be. And when you have to give that up to do the research for yourself,
Yeah.
like you're going to have to test your water yourself. You're going to have to test your soil yourself.
Yeah.
You're not going to be able to believe, what you're being told.
Yeah.
And we're just now learning about lies, aren't we?
Yeah.
In, the public arena. We have a whole population that's divided on what's truth and what's lies right now. And that's all preparing us for what's coming next in the age of Aquarius.
Okay. Can I go back to the career thing since I'm actively?
Yes.
Would it say I'm changing careers, or am I stuck where I'm at with the?
Well, what's interesting is,
did you show the lunch lady card?
I didn't show the lunch lady card. This is Midheaven. This is Midheaven for everyone, but it's actually very hilarious for you because you're working as a lunch lady right now. The hero villain lunch lady.
Right. I'm the manager lunch lady. That makes a difference. I'm the one holding all the things on my head. Yes, that's me. That's how I feel.
Career. But,
yeah. Okay. So can you see that there's a career change, or does it look like I'm stuck?
When you've got Pluto in Sagittarius, that's clicking on your career. That's making you want to make change, but it's so slow.
Right.
Yeah. But when other planets get in there, there'll be more opportunity. And even when the moon passes through there, there's going to be more opportunities for you.
Passes through
when things transit through Sag, like the moon will transit through every month.
Oh my!
Eventually, the sun will get in there this winter. You know, the sun will get into Sagittarius December 18th, and that's a time when you might be able to find clarity on career.
Okay, on December, around December, the end of September.
During that time, and then Mercury will be coming through there. You'll be thinking about it more. Venus was there all last winter. So Venus and Mars were both in there last winter. So was there a lot of stuff going on with you with career last winter?
I had a challenging coworker that was causing trouble for me.
Venus had just gone retrograde and stayed in Sagittarius for ridiculously long amounts of time. And Venus and Mars hung together in Sag for the worst, longest amount of time. As a person who has
forever
the Western hemisphere or the Western descendant and Mars on the opposite ascendant, like my Venus and Mars are opposite. So when Venus and Mars are on top of each other, that's really uncomfortable for me. Like it was so uncomfortable. The holidays were very uncomfortable. And so when Venus and Mars are separate or far apart from each other, I'm like, okay, I'm much more comfortable now.
Okay, so the question would be for us to follow our charts. So our houses are the same as what we were.
The planets are in the same houses.
Planets are in the same house.
Right. You don't have to move any of your planets or your aspects. They're the same.
Okay.
The only thing that shifts is this little dial. It just moves. And you can use an astronomy app to find out exactly where things are. Like look at the east and look at the west and find out where the line is at the time of your birth. And you can just twist your little.
Okay, so so I'm learning what houses are what through this other. So houses stay the same.
Yeah. As far as I can see, the houses have stayed the same.
Okay.
Like I haven't gotten any new messages about what houses should be.
So we need to focus on So on a day-to-day basis, I see what planet today, as far as what's today, I see what planet's in what house, and then I say, okay, Jupiter represents such and such, this house represents such and such, and then I
mostly day to day, I mostly look at where the moon is, whether it's waxing or waning, what it's touching, because the moon is, I think, is one of the most important fast-moving things. The larger planets are more generational, and they're just very slow, and they kind of like Saturn will just sort of be about lifestyle and patterns in your life, and that's for everybody. And Jupiter is like the big external world stuff. Mars is other people. Venus and Mercury and the moon, those are all the ones that you want to, like, this is how I'm feeling, this is what I'm thinking. Those are the
Venus, Sun, and Moon.
Close to the sun. They're always going to be very close to the sun, close to your personal. Those are personal. Those are the ones you want to watch. Where are they going? Where are they heading?
Venus, Sun, and Moon.
Yeah.
Okay. So when I hear Venus is in your third house today, is that everybody's third house? Or just my personal third house?
It would be, see, your natal moment. It's like you're the manifestation of the moment that you were born. Like your natal chart is your rules you came in with. Like, yeah, like this is the imprint. This is your fingerprint.
Huh.
This stays the same. And then, as you move through your life, some things come back to where they were, and then they continuously move around.
Okay.
And when things are similar to when you were born, they feel more comfortable. When they're opposing, you become aware of other things. When
Right.
they're squaring, there's conflict, friction, and misunderstandings. When things are trining, it's pretty harmonious.
So trining. So how do we know that? What's trining? Just by hearing the astrologer say
Good
Saturn is
angles.
trining.
I think that has to do with elements that people associate with different
Mm-hmm.
signs. But for me, it's like
Is
our
that the triangle I see
yeah,
sometimes?
you have a triangle there.
And it's called
But for me,
trining.
because the signs are something different and they're not associated with elements, they're associated with Egyptian gods.
Mm-hmm.
Do these gods get along? Do
Oh,
these two married? Like Thoth and Mahat were life partners.
mm,
Mahat was the universal balance, and she was married. She was one of the wives of Thoth.
right.
So these two will get along.
Okay.
And
And is that in the book telling us what?
no, that's in the book. That
Oh,
really isn't. But like what's in the book is about each one of these signs and the
okay.
mythologies behind them.
Mm-hmm.
And it will say who they're married to or who they
Oh,
belong
okay.
to. I didn't interpret that.
Right. Right. So in your so like in your book, your cards, it'll tell if I look up for Gemini, it tells you what god there's there
Yeah,
too.
it will tell you about the twin gods and
Okay.
like the biggest twin siblings, husband wife team would be Isis and Osiris.
Uh-huh.
But like Amen and Amentet were like male and female, and everybody has a counterpart.
Okay. Somebody asked a question about Marshall. Let's see.
And the moon,
Relationship. Okay. Question about the relationship between Mahat and the moon. Try.
Mahat is about universal. Oh, Mahat is my other deck, the name of my other deck, and that deck is all about moon cycles. It has nothing to do with the goddess. I named it Mahat because Mahat was the wife of Thoth, and I wanted to do a deck that was astrological, like the Thoth deck, and only I wanted a feminine point of view, which is why I named it Mahat.
Yeah.
That there isn't a correlation between Mahat, the goddess, and the moon. Not really.
I can't find that question. Let me look over here. I can't find the exact question. Wait. No, that's not it either.
I can't find it.
Okay, I can't find that question. Oh, wait.
Let's state your question again.
The Mod Tarot is the
Oh,
moon deck expanded with the real sky included.
yeah. Mahat
So,
is not Real Sky. Mahat was before I learned about Real Sky.
okay.
Mahat Tarot is Western culture based or Western astrology based,
Okay.
but it has all of the phases of the moon within each sign. And it's a worthy deck on its own. And
So when you want to work with the moon, Mahat's a good deck to work with.
yeah,
Yeah.
you could say, okay, I know that the moon is in a sign today. I'm going to look at the first quarter moon for this month, and it's not going to necessarily be in that sign. I mean, you could look at both cards. You could look at the card that I assigned to the moon sign, or you could actually precess it and go to the next first quarter moon or whatever you're looking at, and just compare notes.
Okay. All right. So Journey to Egypt was your first deck using Real Sky.
Real Sky, yes.
Yeah. All right. That's cool. All right.
And I don't use moon cycles in there. I use the Egyptian calendar.
Right.
I use the decans. I use the 3 10-day weeks in there.
Mm-hmm. Okay. All right. So, so tell me about, like, I found out, you know, where's the moon phase right now today? Let's use that example.
It's a waning moon.
Waning moon.
It's going to be full tomorrow, actually. It's in Pisces.
That's
the
right.
waning moon is in Pisces today, and the waxing moon is in Pisces today. It's going to be full tomorrow. So waxing is getting bigger.
Yeah.
It's going to actually be full tomorrow.
Okay. As the moon is getting fuller, that's like wax on.
Yes, wax. Like, as if you were taking a candle and dipping it in wax, and it would get bigger every time you dipped it in.
Right.
So waxing.
Okay.
And waning is when it's getting less.
Now, you told me my more challenging times are at the new moon until it gets full moon.
Yeah, during the waxing moon would probably be more challenging for you.
So the whole 2 weeks is what?
Well, not a whole 2 weeks. I mean, you're just going to find a challenge when your moon is waxing because you're a waning moon. And I've seen this with a lot of people. You're going to be more comfortable when the moon is waning. That's when you're going to feel most comfortable. That's when things are going to flow best for you, because that's your rules. Those are your rules.
Okay.
And when, you know.
So waning is from the new moon. No, it is.
Waning is from the full moon, like after the full moon until new moon.
Okay.
It empties
from new moon to full.
Yeah. You're always going to feel especially better when the moon is at the same angle as it is when you were born.
Oh, okay. That's how that works. Okay. So it makes sense. The opposite is rubbing against you.
Yeah, the opposite is going to always be more difficult.
Right. Okay. So from new moon, when it's dark, until it gets full, that whole time is a good time for me. I'm trying to think of when I filled out that.
When it's full is waxing. It's going to be more challenging. From the time that it's full until it's new is waning, and it's going to feel more comfortable.
Oh, okay. I got it opposite. Okay. From full to noon.
Yeah. When you see the moon in the early.
All right. So I'm entering my good stage then.
Yeah. So when you get up really super early and the moon, you know, the sun isn't up yet and the moon is up.
Yeah.
That's your time.
That's my favorite time.
You see that crescent moon in the east, it's waning. That's a waning moon. When you see the crescent moon at sunset and the sun is setting and the crescent moon is up, that's the waxing moon. And it's always that way every month.
This is interesting. We can almost do a whole new line on moon cycles.
Moon cycle section. I have taught that class.
Have you?
Yes.
So
I did teach that class.
Okay, so from full moon to new moon. Peter wrote it out for me.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well, you just observe. Go outside and observe.
Yeah.
Go outside.
Yeah. I'm just fascinated with the moon in general. So
beautiful.
Yeah.
So good to like work with the cycles of the moon, because then you're not wasting your time.
Right.
I've learned to work with the moon, because when I don't, I have a pile of projects that sit in the closet. Whenever I try to start something, I get fired up at the full moon and decide to start something.
Yeah.
And as the moon is waning, I lose interest.
Okay. So are you a waxing moon?
I'm a waxing moon.
Oh, okay.
My best time is first quarter. The first quarter moon is my best time. Like, that's going to be the best day of the month.
Right. That's funny. So, okay. So it goes in quarter. We call it in quarters.
Yeah. That's how Mahat is. It's got a new moon card. It's got a first quarter card. It's got a full moon card. And it's got a I'll last for you.
I'm gonna have to check that one out then. All right. Does anybody else have any questions? Okay, so I'm going to start working with the Mahat then. I need to learn my moon cycles. Because I was trying to figure out, when did I fill out that application? I think it was at the new moon. I think it was at...
That's a good time to start things. That's a great time to start
That's
things.
what I thought, yeah. Okay, so I'm just going to bring up the... Oh, look at what's up here for me.
That's the first card in that deck. That order starts at the autumnal equinox, moves through the dark time of the year, and moves into this cycle. Like, it works through cross quarter days and moon
I
cycles.
need to write that down.
Yeah, it was the next step after blue moon,
Okay.
which is full moons and cross quarter days.
Okay, because I'm learning that I love, like, this whole, in the South, it's all, when it's hot, it's also muggy and humid. So when autumn starts and it's that relief from all that nastiness, I love that part of the year.
Yeah.
So, and then of course, Halloween and all that stuff. Let's see, what's Peter say? Retrograde Mercury is another consideration when making big changes. When Mercury is in retrograde, that's a good time to make changes?
No, that's a good time not to sign contracts or make changes. Although, if you want something to return and return and return, go ahead and sign on your Mercury retrograde.
So when would I know Mercury's in retrograde? For anybody?
It happens 3 times a year. You can look it up. You can look it up online. They'll say when we just had a Mercury retrograde, so we're done.
We just had one. That's duh. I knew that.
Yeah,
okay.
Just had one.
Okay. All right. I see what he's saying. Just make sure. Yeah, we all know that not to do big things. Well, because remember I was talking to you about, oh my God, I this job opening, but it's during Mercury retrograde. Do I or don't I? But
well, I mean, if you did, they might keep your what do you say, piece of paper. They might keep that on file and then call you back later.
right.
Like, the next time it's Mercury retrograde, you might have another shot at it.
Oh no.
Well,
you didn't tell me
they'll
that.
keep coming back to you. I signed my contract with US Games on a Mercury retrograde, and everybody was mad at me. Well, Tracy Hoover was mad at me. But everything that happens with me with US Games always happens on a Mercury retrograde.
Okay.
And I'm still one of my deck is still being sold by them. So it's been reissued 3 times. So
is it like a superstition almost?
Well, you don't want something you don't want to buy a new car on Mercury retrograde, because you might have trouble with it. Because Mercury retrograde is, about transportation to begin with. Like, you might need to have a second option for travel.
Interesting.
Since Mercury rules travel and communication and
I wonder where Mercury was when my son got his car. Because he's having enough trouble.
Yeah. But if you want something to happen again and again, then
you do it in Mercury retrograde.
Yeah. Okay. Right. If you want your paperwork to get lost, send it in on Mercury retrograde.
Well, that's the thing. So I haven't signed anything. They're still, taking in applications at this point.
Yeah, they're probably waiting too. That's when,
I was wondering,
all the tech goes crazy and
yeah. Well, fingers crossed I get to start a new career soon. Okay, well, are we at the end of my chart then?
Anybody need anything else? That's really all. I mean, this was your original chart, and then we just moved it so that.
I like the way you did that. Yeah.
I thought, how can I illustrate this?
Yeah.
We just moved it so the sun is at the very beginning of Gemini, and then everything else falls into place.
I'll have to copy that too. Well, this was awesome, and also so much to take in. It's like, you
can rewatch it.
Yeah, exactly. That's exactly what I was thinking. I'm like, okay, I'm just gonna have to. It's also fascinating, and to learn about how, like, a planet rules a certain emotion or aspect, and then when it goes into a certain house, it's those two. How do they elix, right?
Right, and it's kind of like reading tarot. I mean,
Yeah.
you're creating a sentence with the
Yeah.
planet as a thing or an aspect of your life, and then the sign is like the flavor. Like,
Right.
these are the attributes of this sign,
Yeah.
and you're just creating this kind of a mix.
Right. Right.
To help you understand like what's happening.
All right, Peter's volunteering you to do this more often. It's a lot of work, though. Yes.
Yeah, it's not like something I really.
It's not like throwing tarot cards. It's a lot of.
It falls into the line of counseling, and I don't want to do counseling. I don't mind talking about the symbolism because I enjoy symbolism.
Right. Right.
I really
Okay,
enjoy
so
it.
all in all, what would you tell somebody who just had this reading? What would be your summary? I mean, do you summarize?
Well, you've got a lot that people don't see about you.
Right. That's all the mystery.
Yeah. I mean, this half of the chart is the stuff that just happens to you.
Uh-huh.
This half of the chart is the stuff that you have some control over.
Oh, well, that's an interesting thing.
Communication, your money, your physical body, your your relationship to the universe, your career, but this is the stuff that just happens to you. Relationships, partnerships, your health, your children, and your home. Those are the things that just sort of happen.
Now, can you tell by somebody's chart if they're in good health or bad health? I mean,
like Mars is in here, so like, I don't know. I think that you like to have other people get involved with your health. Like, you would step outside of your circle to take care of yourself.
Right. Okay.
You would ask for some help.
Okay. Right. All right. This is, very interesting.
These are the parts that you don't have control of that nobody sees.
Right.
These are the parts that you do have control over that nobody sees. So, that's also in the book. Like, how do you know? Like, what parts?
Okay, so all that information's in the book that we can. Okay, yeah.
All things that you can write notes about. You can all write all that down.
Yeah. So interesting conversation we were having before was, I do paranormal investigations, and I was telling you about who I'd like to have on, and it has to do with UFOs, ufology, EAPs, ufologies, and I told you that a friend of mine who's a channeler said that I would channel otherworldly beings, and you said that showed up in my chart.
Yes.
So
the cards away now. But that was this.
Interesting.
Yeah.
So that is interesting. Yeah, very, very cool. So
it always surprises me, because it's pretty clear, and you don't need all the minutia to read it. You don't need to know where your Chiron is.
Right. So people should focus Sun, Moon, and Venus.
Sun, Moon, Venus. The moon is going to keep moving. It's going to go through every sign in a month.
So we just, follow the moon, what sign it's in, not necessarily what house it's in. Is that correct?
Yeah, because it's in a day, it's going to go through like every house because it's running through, it's rising and it's going to go through the complete cycle in a day.
Yeah. In listening to Julie's interpretations, I heard a lot of truth to what Ginger shares with these close to her. Fascinating. Yeah, I don't share a whole lot with people. Here again is
hence all of the stuff underneath the horizon.
Yeah. And I used to think that was because I was the crab, the hermit.
Yeah, well, I mean,
has nothing to do. All right. Well, I encourage everybody to at least purchase the book. It's very fascinating, and all the cards are the pictures are also in the book.
there's a lot of information on my website too regarding signs and times of signs and what the dates are, and
yeah.
so
But I would, for me personally, want these lovely cards, and so you do readings with the cards too, though, or how do you do that?
You can read with them just like a tarot deck if you want to.
Oh, okay.
I mean, you can just read it and look at it, like you would any deck.
Right.
It doesn't have to be associated with astrology. It can just be, okay, I know that the high priestess means this, and
Oh, yeah. I'm going to definitely have to get the deck. So, all right. Well, Julie, I've enjoyed this very much. Appreciate you sharing with the world my hidden side. But this was a lot of fun. And so, again, I just encourage everybody, go to Julie's website and definitely check out, and for those of you who might be on a tight budget, the book is very affordable. And so if you can't do both, like I couldn't do both, but separating the two, I'm definitely getting the deck.
You have an astronomy app and you have the book. You can do your chart.
Yeah, so anybody can get their birth chart off the internet.
That's right.
Astrology.com, I think, too. And you use
Astrolab is a free place to get a chart.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
They're pretty accurate. And
now when you do your chart, you just move it slightly one sign to the
I look for left. I just look to line the degrees up with the sun.
With the sun, okay.
You can look on your app. Your astronomy app will tell you what the degrees are and what sign it's in.
Mm-hmm.
Astronomy app will tell you. So when you line that up, because an astronomy app will say what sign it is. Okay. So when you line those degrees up, then everything else will just fall into place.
Mm-hmm.
And all of this stuff is, you just have to change the little icon to reflect what actual sign it's in, the real sky sign, and then you have it. Okay,
so the planets are the same. We just change
the same. You just change the little icon for the sign.
Right. And but you're doing that by turning the
just this. I cut this out. I did 2 of your charts and I cut this little piece out. And
in doing that, the icon changes itself, basically.
That's all you're doing.
That's awesome. I love it. Yeah.
Well, when I did the moon signs book, I had a little thing like this in the back for Mahat.
Right.
I did Mahat moon signs. It was a book for Mahat, so that people could figure out what phase of the moon they were in. And in the back of the back cover was a cutout, so you could take the back cover, cut it out, and make yourself a scope, so you could turn to find out what phase of the moon you were in. Because most people don't know what phase of the moon they're in, but if you had that scope, you could figure it out just based on where your sun is, and you just turn it and find out, and then you can know what card goes with your moon sign and phase. And it's all Western astrology, though. But still valid and interesting symbolism. And,
it's just a little
place. It got me to where I needed to be.
It makes sense because we're a little off. We're all a little off.
Wow, it's a process. It's taken me like how many years to just figure this out. Just to get this far, because it took me a long time just to get to Mahat, and then I went to Journey into Egypt, and then so.
Well, I hope everybody else enjoyed, even though it was my chart, but a lot of fascinating information here. So I hope everyone enjoyed it. Appreciate y'all coming. and hanging out with us for a little while. And until the next time, Julie, do you have anything coming up?
Next week, next Saturday, I'll be on Carla Astrology.
Okay.
I'm not sure what time, but watch for announcements.
Yeah, watch on Julie's channel or Carla's channel.
Yeah.
And then Sunday I'll be on Carla's channel as well, doing the tarot brunch.
This Sunday?
Yeah, I think is it. Where's my phone? It's like, where's my glasses? And they're on top of my head. Where's my phone? Oh, I couldn't find my phone. I thought I left it in the car. So I'm looking in the car for my phone using the flashlight on my phone. Going, where the hell's my phone?
I could do that.
I just can't believe I did something. Now I forgot what I was going to look up. Oh.
When you're going to
my calendar. I actually have so my October, I went from doing next to nothing. My October is just really busy. So yeah, Sunday, I'll be on at 2:00, but it'll be on Jonathan's channel. Jonathan's hosting it. And then I might do some live readings on the 15th all by myself.
Ooh.
Unless somebody wants to come on with me. But no. I've been encouraged to do solo readings, and that's just going to be weird because there's nobody to chat with and nobody to...
Yeah, it's hard to do dead air.
When somebody's doing their reading, it gives me time to shuffle and pull my cards and think about it. So I'll have to think on the fly. That'll be odd.
Kudos to those people who can just talk to the screen, because I cannot.
Yeah, so that'll be a challenging. What you told me somewhere to be bold, to go out there. And on the 21st, I have Atalanta Moonfire. She does bone casting, and I had the most wonderful reading at a fair with her. So she's going to be on my channel. I'll try to change the time. It's at 7:00, and I feel UK people, that's late. Anyway, on to the next.
Thanks for having
Thank you again, everybody. I appreciate you. I appreciate all your support and your love for Julie and myself. And Peter thanks you. And yeah, you're encouraged to do more, but I can relate that it's a draining process. Time consuming, can be draining, but
having to think of all the things I've already written down, like I have it, but it's not as articulate as it's going to be in the book. So it's in the book. Read the book. Read
the book. Get the book. What do we have? And it's actually called The Real Sky Astrology.
Yeah. There's long chapters.
Oh, you can't see me. Hang on. Where am I?
Oh, here.
Here, let me do this.
Here we go.
There you go.
It's actually blue. It looks purple on here, but it's actually blue.
And it's the most brilliant blue. It's almost what I would call a royal blue. For me, royal blue is purple and blue. So that's awesome. All right. Oh, let's start embiggening me. Ew. Okay. Bye, everybody.
Bye.
Bye. Oh, my goodness.
Smash that like button.